I'm Eamon.
I'm Merlin.
And we're a Gay
And His Enby.
Episode 12. Another great episode of A Gay His Enby coming your way. Thank you all for joining and listening to us wherever you do on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the places. So excited to be with you for another week where we get to talk about all the things in television this week. What do we have on tap today, babe?
Well, in a little while, we'll get into episode 3 of season 44 of Survivor. That was a pretty great episode, I thought. More shenanigans from the castaways there.
We do love some shenanigans.
We love our shenanigans. And definitely some pretty men to talk about over there. But
I feel like at this point we're just like viewers can read into a lot by like how many episodes we've been like, God, that guy was hot. Like just like it happens.
I mean, did they not read the name of the show? The name of the show is A Gay and His Enby.
If you didn't think we weren't going to thirst over some people, I mean, come on now.
I mean, but talking about pretty men, we'll start as we always do with RuPaul's Drag Race.
I was like, where are you going with that? Oh no, I see where you're going with that. That's okay.
Well, some pretty men and some pretty women, because we do have Sasha Colby over there as well.
Very nice. Yes. So we come into the workroom after Malaysia went home last week. Selena is, this is her fourth lip sync in the bottom, so she kind of has to sort of psych herself back into this. She says in her confessional, "No more Mrs. Nice STDs," which I think is.
I cackled.
I want that on, like that's one of the ones where it's like put that on a t-shirt. Like everyone's trying for their catchphrases. That
is a good one.
And then we saw a little bit of Lux and Lucy like start to get into it when they would come back from the challenge. But then it gets even bigger the next day when they come back into the workroom. I love Lux grabbing one of the wigs from Mistress's Kelly and Michelle dolls and just wearing it the whole time during this fight. This little like sort of like sleek little bob like fringe moment. It was a choice, but Lux and Lucy kind of getting into it, and Lux calling her out for her Beyonce look of being like, "Why didn't you have a baby bump?" Which we said last week, like.
And all the memes, the entire world was making fun of her ass for that.
Yeah, it's like Lucy trying to be like, well, I mean, she wasn't really showing. It's like she had a bump. There was definitely a bump. It didn't have to be a big bump, but she had a bump. And like, yeah, Lux was holding her own in a way that was really fun and was getting Lucy to kind of spiral a little bit. And then we get... So the 90-minute episodes are back. We should also say that. This is our first 90-minute episode of the season, which I didn't, like, looking back on the episodes, like, I was like, okay, like, I think I got so used to the 60-minute episodes where I was like, my brain was conditioning to, like, see, like, okay, this is fine. Like, this is how Drag Race can be. But once you get a 90-minute episode, you realize, oh, we missed so much. Like, they got to actually, like,
we got judge deliberations this week.
We got like a confessional about how people were feeling that lasted more than 5 seconds. Like it was like it makes me feel bad because it's like, did we miss all the development of these characters? Like,
yeah,
probably.
Well, and at this point, we only have 7 queens left.
Yeah.
Like waiting until we have 7 queens left to give us 90 minutes makes it feel a little bit sparse. But if we had this from day one.
And I think with like the front runners and the people who like, think or have a really good shot at making it to the finale, I still think we knew them a good bit. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking of all the other people, like the Jaxes and even like the Aura Mayaris and stuff like that. Like, did they get like actual developed stories?
Yeah, would people have been as irritated with Amethyst if we got a full view of who she is?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
No, but we like the other thing that we're getting now. We have 90-minute episodes. We get a room mail, like
for the first time.
Yeah, it's just like those little things. It's like this is this is
they cut out all the iconic shit.
Well,
it was just irritating.
Yeah, I mean, MTV put them in a really bad spot. But we go to a mini challenge, which this was a really fun mini challenge. They do a Harlem Vogue ball, like mini challenge, which I think is a good, like, it's a good way to do like the, like, sort of like something that's a little fun and carefree, which the mini challenges typically are. They're not really that serious at the end of the day, but like something that still takes from drag and and
Cue
gay
Aja
culture.
LaBeija.
Well, we won't get into the
Laomi.
whole. We won't get into the whole that drama. I just think like I can understand like certain elements of like quote unquote appropriation. I don't even know if appropriation is the right term necessarily, but like I also think it's hard to make the argument that like Drag Race doesn't give appreciation to the old school eras of ballroom, of those elements. Could they do more? Absolutely. But like,
But then also shit on queens that do,
well, yes.
who bring that on the show and actually like.
I just also think like no disrespect to Aja, like we also watched Legendary, like and also what HBO Max did to Legendary is disgraceful, by the way. Like,
well, but it's not even just Aja. Laomi's been pretty vocal about it too.
right, but the reason I bring up Aja is like Aja got critiqued. If I remember her season on Legendary, like she got her and her house got critiqued a lot. Like they didn't do great on Legendary in terms of like doing the best in terms
like
of,
let's not act like she's an expert.
and that's not to say that Aja's not talented. She is, but like I just think I just don't.
And like come for me if you want to, but for a freaking quote unquote icon, Laomi's still pretty fucking young. So like to act like you were around in the birth of ballroom and like you are the end all be all authority of what is allowed and what is not when it comes to voguing, fuck off. You were a judge on a TV show. You're popular in the scene. That's it.
I think it's maybe,
and you were never vocal when your show was still on the air.
Sure, but I think I also just don't get the specific attacks on Anitra. Like I feel like there is a lot of nogging on Drag Race. Don't get me wrong. There is a lot of girls who like do duck walks that should not be doing duck walks and don't know how to actually like. And to me, that is more of the crime, and that is one thing where I can understand if you're somebody in this, entrenched in that world, getting sort of annoyed by that. I just don't understand when you take it out on Anitra, who seemingly does it better than anyone who has been on Drag Race, in my view.
If you had a problem with it, then maybe you should give a call to World of Wonder and go, hey, maybe I could come on and do an episode where I work with queens and we actually like do some real education on voguing and the history of ballroom, and let's make this a thing. Let's make ballroom have a even larger platform than it got from Legendary, because Drag Race has a larger platform than Legendary did. So like, let's actually do some work in, raising the profile of ballroom culture.
Sure.
Let's actually give a shit about education instead of just shitting on people that you don't like.
I feel like, it sucks with like gay culture, I guess, in general, which you see it a lot where there's the like, because Drag Race has become so nationalized, and that's not to say that Drag Race and RuPaul haven't made plenty of fucking mistakes in terms of the community.
Right.
But like, I think you see it not just with like the people in the ballroom scene, but even other forms of drag and other like elements of the community where it's just like, well, we're not Drag Race. We're like, and I think to what you're saying, like it might be better to just like all put our egos aside for a second and like collaborate and like actually like, especially in the time we're living in right now, we won't get into it, but it's like, that can be frustrating in a way. But I will, going back to this mini challenge, I really enjoyed it a lot. It was kind of everyone, and then Sasha and Anitra.
Yeah.
Like Sasha was like, she is something else in terms of performance and stuff like that. Like she like everything she does is just so like captivating. And then Anitra as well. Like, obviously the duck walks and the death drops the dips. Because hers are more dips, like in terms of like what we consider a death drop versus a dip.
Death drop is not a real thing.
Sure, it was invented. That's this is where I'm saying, like, I can see why people in that community get offended, where it's like you take a term and then like change it.
So basically what happened is somebody saw it, said, ooh, that's cool, I'll figure out how to do it and I'll give it a name, as opposed to going, hey, what name does this already have?
Right. And where does this come from?
Right.
So Anitra wins the mini challenge. Congratulations to her, she did great. And then we get them basically being told what the maxi challenge is, which is we basically get. I mean, it's a stand-up challenge, I guess, but it's in everyone except for eventually Marcia is in groups, and it's the Bubbly Comedy Festival sponsored by Bubbly. We're not sponsored by Bubbly; they're sponsored by Bubbly. In case there was a confusion.
Although, if you want to call us Bubbly,
there we go. But no, so basically they have to pick, and it was just like they have to pick out of this like ice chest these like bubbly cans, and then if you have the matching color, then you're in a team with that person. I feel like that was the editing on that was they were clearly just they had like a PA under the table, right? Just like feeding them the cans.
I guess I don't know.
They really did like they were very good at like not showing like a lot.
Either that or they just everybody had different ice boxes.
Yeah, because it seemed a little too perfect.
Here's Anitra's ice box.
Yes. It's like how it's when Naomi Smalls, I think it was, like basically revealed how the boxes with the lip sync songs in it for the thing are bullshit. Yeah. Pulling back the curtain. But Selena gets the solo can, but then she gets to basically choose whether or not she wants to go solo or steal one of someone else's partners to do a group. And she decides to take Mistress away from Marcia, leaving Marcia to do it by herself. And Marcia is obviously freaking out about this. Like when they're doing the like planning out and like writing down jokes and stuff like that, Marcia's just like talking to herself, like going over everything. And it's like, you could tell she was spiraling a little bit, particularly in the fact that, she had said in post interviews that like, this was the one challenge she didn't want to do. And like, she didn't have any wins at that point. So it's like, I can see how it could be really stressful in terms of that. And then Sasha and Anitra are working on theirs. And Anitra is basically, I mean, we find out it's specifically an ocular migraine, but she's having some sort of migraine. I was looking at you this whole time because I was like,
for those who don't know, I suffer from chronic migraines.
I was like,
this is something that
so Merlin felt seen in this moment.
Oh, definitely felt seen.
It was, yeah, it sucks. Like and I mean, like there's nothing you can really do.
Yeah, and like what I enjoyed about this is that nobody acted like she was putting anything on. Nobody acted like she was over dramatizing anything. Everybody was just like, wow, this sucks. This person is going through something that I cannot possibly understand. And all I'm going to do is give them as much grace as I possibly can.
Yeah. And even because even Sasha was like, I mean, she was like, I'm worried how this could affect me.
Yeah.
But like, it's not like blaming her for it at the end of the day, which like, that's the main thing. We go to the rehearsal with Michelle and Ali Wong, the guest judge.
I love Ali Wong.
Ali Wong's great. She actually was a really good guest judge, particularly. I mean, she did good in the rehearsal part, like in terms of like specific critiques and that. I always get annoyed with the comedy critiques typically. One, because Michelle's usually doing it, and I've talked before that I don't really like Michelle's advice, at least in terms of this, like the like rehearsal portions of like challenges and stuff like that. I don't like it when she does the acting challenge ones. Like I just don't think she gives the best advice. And like I also think like they laugh at the easiest shit, and like they're I think that's my frustration with Drag Race a lot, is just like nobody's praised for going a little more smarter with their humor. Like that, like Mistress made that whole like, she said like we were listening to Geronimo by RuPaul and they just started laughing. It's like, why? Because you said RuPaul's name. Like it's like if you reference us at all, then we're gonna laugh. But like, it just felt, yeah. But like Anitra obviously is struggling because she didn't really have time to prepare anything, so she's kind of like going in blind. So
with it being an ocular migraine,
I didn't mean it like that. That's bad.
Yeah, I see.
Cancel me.
I could laugh because I have migraines.
Oh God. But and Selena is like getting critiqued for like being a little long-winded in terms of getting to the joke, and sort of like, which funny that it kind of was the reverse in the challenge. We'll get there. We go back into the workroom the next day and they're getting ready. Mistress kind of talks about her backstory and how like she has like sort of doesn't really speak to her mother, and like that terrible thing about like sort of like getting being in that sort of distant relationship. And then she talked about how she broke her ankle at a show or whatever that she was doing, and like her mom obviously came because she needed, like, I think like documents or something, like some as a mother would do. And immediately as she came in, and Mistress is still in drag in the hospital room, and it's just like, why are you wearing that? It's like, that's just so like fucking frustrating.
Yeah.
I feel like this is we see a lot of like, and there were some good stories this season about like, parents who are supportive and stuff like that. But I also think it's important to like showcase the like, it sucks that people are fucked up and not like able to see forest through the trees sometimes of like, of that shit.
And
it's
I think it was important before, like in older earlier seasons of Drag Race, to highlight more positive stories, because so many of the people that were watching it didn't have that experience. And so we needed to see that there was light, that there was hope, that there were other places that were accepting, even if where you were was not. Now, I think, and I mean, sure, what's going on legally and overall, like in the US, when it comes to drag and trans rights and things like that, is awful. But I think on an interpersonal level, things have gotten a lot better for queer people.
Sure.
And I think that queer kids are coming up in more likely, especially than used to be, more likely that their parents are going to be accepting, especially because millennials are by and large the parents that are bringing up today's generation of kids.
The chance that you have to be in a more accepting family is greater.
So I think it's important that we highlight the negative stories to remind the current generation of queer kids that are coming up that we have made some huge strides even since this show began.
100%.
And we still have a lot to do, but we have come a long way. Yeah,
and I also think with like Mistress's story, and also with like Anitra's couple episodes ago, I also like that, like, because there was a running joke for seasons about like, hear about your family trauma on Drag Race, and then Ru will bring your parents to the finale, and then you'll have this moment where like you come together or whatever, you'll be in Untucked and the video pops on the screen, and it's but I like that both Mistress and Anitra are also in really good places, it seems.
Yeah.
And I love that they can also promote the message of, while this may suck that I don't have this, I'm fine.
Right.
And you don't need, like, it's not we talk about shows and family, that's one element of it, but just also your personal self-esteem and how you find yourself as a person. I like that there's also, it gets better is one thing, but it's also another important thing to tell people, like, if something is really toxic, you don't have to stay in it.
Right.
Just out of this idea that you need to have this in your life.
Right. I think it's important to note, it gets better if you make it better.
Yeah.
It gets better if you put in the work to get out of that situation, and you surround yourself with people who love and accept you for who you are.
Right.
And if that means that you have to find the 5 people in your city that support you, then that's fine. If that means you have to move across the country like we did to find a community where we feel safe to walk down the street and live in our truth, then that's what you have to do. And that's hard to do. It is extremely difficult and expensive to do something like that. Oh Lord.
And sometimes it takes time. When you're at a really young age, it takes time as well, because you don't have
you don't have the freedom to make the money to make the moves.
Yeah.
So it takes a while, but it can get better if you are dedicated to making it better.
Yeah. Yeah. Really. Yeah. I'm glad that story is being told.
Yes.
We go to the runway and get into the challenge for this week. We start with Marsha's. So you had a friend of yours that was actually in the audience.
Yes. So I won't say friend. We're friendly acquaintances. Like we went to college together, and we've kept in touch on Facebook, but not anything like super. And I was just looking on his Facebook to make sure that his posts were public, so that if like you can't get mad
Yeah.
because it's public, anybody can go see this on your page. So I'm not going to name him though, because I think that's a little rude. But anyway, he was in the audience for this challenge. They definitely liked using his reactions, but they used them for the wrong queens.
Oh, yeah.
So Marsha's was a lot funnier than which we clocked while watching the show, because the audience was laughing, but they weren't giving judges laughing at all.
I literally was like, I think they're giving her a bad edit. And it wasn't the most like high energy number, as other girls later in the episode were a little more higher up in sort of energy. But as far as an opener, I don't know if you necessarily need that. And I also think she went with the smarter jokes.
Yeah.
That weren't just dick jokes and like the sort of like low hanging fruit.
But that's not what judges like on this show. They like pee pee poo poo, unless it's pee pee poo poo, and then they shit on you, like they did on Rock'em Sakura. Justice for Rock'em.
They pee pee poo poo on you. It was right there. I had to take it.
Yeah, you're right.
But no, like it's like,
so Marsha's was a lot funnier than apparently what they showed on the show. Also, Mistress took about 3 times as long as Selena to get to her half of their bit. And they actually cut quite a bit from hers, and she even had to cut some from her story and just jump to the end of it.
Yeah.
Which is why her halves felt so disjointed, and why I'm so frustrated that she wasn't the one lip syncing.
Well, we'll also get to the runway looks too, because you had some thoughts.
Damned. When you bomb that much on the main stage, you got to be in the bottom.
Yeah, it didn't seem great. Like in terms of even what came out in the edit. Like I thought that it was interesting that she basically, like, everything that Selena was doing in the rehearsal that was bad, she ended up doing in the end product, which I thought was interesting. Selena did a great job. I actually think with a maybe stronger runway, like, Selena could have won this episode.
Agreed.
I thought this was one of her better, like, challenge performances.
But even then, I thought that her, like, this is one of the benefits of getting the longer episodes, too. And I guess we'll talk about it when we get past we don't really usually pick apart the runway. But one of the things I like about it is we're getting all the voiceovers back.
Sure.
And that adds context to the look, which I think is important. And I think that with that context, Selena's look is moving. Was it as visually beautiful as some of the other looks? No. But I think that telling a story like that with a good look, it wasn't a great look, but it was good. And so telling a moving story like that with a look that is also good, and then also performing that much better than your partner she should have been in the top contenders for this episode. And
I think she was, and I think we'll get to it, but like, so also Lux and Lucy did really well as a unit too.
Yes.
Like they really played off of each other really well. The sort of like the jokes about Lucy's white teeth I thought were really funny, and like they had a really good dynamic and good structure, and obviously the whole like, oh, they were fighting in the workroom earlier in the day and now they're able to work together. But it's like they know what they're doing, like they're professionals, and it's not like, I don't think it was that major of a like issue to where they had to like put anything too big aside. But they do really well, and then we get to Sasha and Anitra. Can I just say, before we get to the actual comedy of their performance, Sasha's look in this challenge, the challenge look was so fucking good. This like bouffant, like it was giving very Absolutely Fabulous. What's her name?
What's her name?
She was a guest judge on. I love her, but I'm literally blanking. Oh my god! Like, but you everyone knows who I'm talking about. Like, it's like it was giving that sort of like, not regalness, but sort of like high class with a little edge, like vibe. Like it was so well done in terms of like the actual. I mean, Sasha always looks stunning at the end of the day, so it's like what more can you do?
Joanna Lumley.
There we go. I know her name. It's like Ab Fab was one of my favorite shows, but it's just like I have brain fog and I have all this stuff going on, but it's fine. But to the comedy, yeah, this wasn't the greatest. Sasha kind of did a little bit better towards the end of the set, but like, yeah, it's just like they were very disjointed and like even with like Selena and Mistresses, when Mistress wasn't doing as well, at least they had like a idea and a structure and sort of like the whole joke is that we both fuck the same guy and like etc. This, it felt like they had 3 different ideas. Like they were going they were talking about weed at one point, and then like
it was
if they kind of narrowed it down a little bit more, I think it would have been better.
And it also kind of echoed the performance in Daytona Wind from Jax that was particularly bad with I was just playing it under because they were supposed to be high. And it was like this is stand-up comedy. You can't do it that way.
Yeah.
Like you can't play it under.
If you're going to be you have to, if you're going to do the I'm a forgetful stoner, that doesn't translate well to comedy unless you go really, really.
You have to ham it up if you're doing it that way.
Yeah. Like, and I think, and they talk about it on the runway, like Anitra has such like confidence in every other element. And it's just like, it doesn't feel like in this element, it really translated for her. And it's like, she's funny in her confessionals.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks that somebody who can be very funny in like normal spaces can't put that on in a comedy.
I mean, realm. I feel like I'm that way. I can do scripted stuff and I can do my, I feel like I'm a funny person just in general. But if I were to try to write a stand-up, no, absolutely not. I'm not a comedian.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very different skill set. And you'll also find that people that are stand-up comedians sometimes are not super funny in person.
Oh, true.
So, I mean, it's a different thing. It's a completely different thing. And just because they're both funny doesn't mean that they're related.
Yeah. So we go to the runway, and the category is Rip Her to Shreds, shredded looks. What did we think overall were sort of the standouts? To me, I thought
Sasha.
Oh, well, yeah. Sasha going with this like denim. She said like Britney Justin era, like VMA look, like take on it. Was really, I think she did the most like with the actual shredding of like, and showing a lot of skin as well with that. I think was really smart. I also really love what Lux did. Call it pandering, but good on her for pandering.
But again, here she comes with the references that are on point. And like,
so she's doing like a tribute look to RuPaul when in the 80s, her like sort of punk band called Wee Wee Pole, and this like really like white like shreddy jacket sort of thing.
Almost like the shoulder pads almost gave me football player a little bit. Like it was really a really cool look. It was like quasi athletic looking, but also
well, and I love that she changed
queer.
She changed up the silhouette slightly by making it sort of like a leotardish kind of like vibe.
Right.
And like, but the makeup was like really graphic and great, and like the hair, like you said, she knows her references. She knows how to. Someone could have done that, and it would have just been pandering, and it would have just been that sort of baseline.
If she gets to the finale, and they don't actively talk about how much she
she's only in
knows her history.
She's only in her early 20s, and she's still like
she's a Rolodex of drag history, and it's beautiful to see. I know we've talked about it on the show before, but it's really nice to see that a younger generation is putting the time and effort in to learn the history of the culture.
Yeah, I agree. We talked a little bit about Selena's already.
Which I really liked. I really appreciated it.
Because she does it basically as a tribute to her mother, who was an immigrant, and sort of her journey coming across the border and the struggle of that, which I feel like we don't talk enough about that struggle on television. I wish
there had been more color in this look.
Yeah.
Because...
more clearly defined. Like,
I mean, maybe it's stereotypical, but when I think of like fabrics that come from Mexico, I think like your bright blues and your bright like pinks and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was hoping to see more of that Southwest color palette, like turquoise and things like that. and I just didn't. That wasn't what she went for. She went for, mixed neutrals.
Right.
Which I guess I can understand if you're coming across like in a more desert environment, more of an arid environment. Like I could get that because that's more camouflagey. Like you're kind of harder to spot, and that might have been the story she was trying to tell. But I didn't
If it wasn't
piece that together until just now.
If it wasn't for her, like you saying the voiceover on the runway, it may not have translated in the same way because the judges don't really talk about it that much, which I can understand. Also, being frustrated when you have such a message behind this to not get that moment, but and then we go. So Marsha's look, and Marsha was in a tough place because Lucy had already did like the beauty pageant look a couple episodes ago.
But I love how the judges. Okay, so it's like a torn up prom dress. Who cares? But like,
it's not great.
It's not great, but she had other elements to this look that I thought elevated it above the shredded prom dress look.
I liked the makeup.
Like the makeup was dynamic. Her hair was all fucked up. She had like clumps of hair in her hand, like she had been fighting with someone. I wish there had maybe been like, she's done the broken nose a couple times. Give us a bloody something. Give us like
more
graphic, like I literally like had to fight tooth and nail and I got hurt.
Well, and also like I normally hate it when the judges do like, well, you should have, like in that moment when you saw that Lucy had that, you should have come up with something else. Normally I hate that. But I think with this particular category, you actually could. Like, honestly, you could take any of your looks and just take a pair of scissors to them and it would work.
But you also don't know what challenges are coming, and you don't know until after the show what challenges were admitted.
Sure.
So you don't know if you're tearing up a look for the runway for next week.
And also that shit's expensive at the end.
Right, and that shit's expensive. So I appreciated the storytelling that she did in her look, but I also hated what Mistress did with her look. And we vehemently disagree on this.
Let me say this. It didn't work for the category. It wasn't shredded. It was burnt.
Right.
That's a different thing. Like, it's not but you had more issues in terms of concept.
My issue is when you put the two looks side by side, take away the shreddedness, right? Take away all the distressing. Obviously, Mistress's look is better. From a base, it started at a better look.
The silhouette was better.
The silhouette was better. The dress itself is just better constructed. All of that. It's less basic, had that really nice detailing on the neckline. But all that happened from super basic to what we ended up with on the runway for Mistress was a few burn holes.
Sure.
Her makeup did not change. Her hair was perfect. Her gloves were perfect. Her jewelry was perfect. There was no story. All we got were burn marks. And that to me was lazy as fuck. For someone who has shown to be not lazy at all in terms of this conversation or this competition, and who has worked her ass off to do well in every fucking challenge, to walk out on stage looking like that, I felt was a disservice to herself.
Sure.
When you look at that next to Marsha did so much more to elevate that look from a not so great dress to an entire story, to tell us a story on the runway.
What I would argue though in return is that I think it's a tired story on Drag Race. Like even when Lucy came out with it a couple episodes ago, it's like I've seen this story before on Drag Race. Like the whole like it's like the runner up prom queen, whatever thing. Like it's been done to death, to a certain extent. Now you could argue Marilyn Monroe or whatever the Mistress was going for has also been done to death, and that probably be true.
But I didn't even get Marilyn from that. Like,
really?
It didn't scream Marilyn to me. Marilyn didn't wear like that sort of a neckline. She didn't wear but she didn't wear that big of a skirt. Her dresses were A-line. They weren't.
I'm not saying it was a perfect Marilyn. I'm saying more
to
with
me, it didn't give that same feel as Marilyn. It gave Va 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 Voom, which Marilyn always was a quiet sexiness
Sure.
to me. Marilyn was effortlessly sexy. This looked like effort and not good effort to me.
Okay. So Lucy and Lux end up both winning the challenge to get a double win. I agree. I think, I maybe would have given it to Lux solo, but I don't mind them giving it a duo because they had such great chemistry. Like,
yeah.
Now, if it wasn't going to be them two, it was going to be Selena.
Right.
I think at the end of the day. But that gives Lucy her fourth win technically, if we're counting the mini challenges. It gives her second win. Let's be real, and it gives Lux her second win as well. So I would be shocked with Sasha, Lucy, and Lux not making it to finale. And and Mistress is doing so. I mean, like, I hate to say it, but I feel like Anitra needs a win badly in these next couple weeks. Like, I think she could get it. I really want to see her in that finale though, because I think like she deserves to be there. But bottom two for this week, Marsha, and Anitra. They have to lip sync to "Boss Bitch" by Doja Cat. Holy shit! This was the best lip sync of the season. It was so fucking good. I still think about it today. It was really good,
but I don't think Anitra should have been in the bottom. I think it should have been Mistress.
Oh, you don't think Anitra should have been in the bottom at all?
No. I think she should have been the third bottom, but I don't think she should have been in the bottom two. Just because I think her look was so much better than Mistress's.
I did love her look.
And I think that when you are also combating a disability and that's being kind of held against you a little bit.
Not directly,
but you're like holding a disabled person to the same standard as someone who is not disabled is ableist, and that is violence against a disabled person. So like you can't expect a person in a wheelchair to climb a tree at the same ability as like a 5-year-old with no physical disabilities. Like that's not fair. So like to me, personally, I think it should have been Mistress, especially because they did so much work to edit Mistress's performance to being better than it was.
There's that.
And I know full well that that's fact.
Sure.
So,
which I think also like, I could have seen Mistress lip sync again.
I think they just wanted to see Anitra lip sync.
Well, and thank God at the end of the day.
Because, yes, but I also think that they knew that if they put Mistress in the bottom, Marsha would have wiped the floor with her.
Oh, you think so? I don't know.
In this song? Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. Marsha and Anitra gave us one of the best lip syncs in Drag Race history.
Sure.
And to swap out Anitra for Mistress would not have matched Anitra, and Marsha would have sent her home.
So let's get into because everyone is like, immediately when this happened, like everyone was like, this should have been a double Shantae.
I agree.
I agree and disagree. I could see it. Like I can visualize it in my mind. I don't think it's definitive. Like I don't think it's like, how dare they not? I think they could have done it.
This lip sync is going to live on. We literally are getting a second top 5 Drag Race lip syncs of all time in this season.
Sure.
So the fact that, and it was because both participants were at that level.
Well,
so of course it should have been a double Shantae.
Well, and we won't get into Untucked, but like in Untucked, Marsha kind of brings up like, I'm probably going against Anitra. I have no wins in this competition. Also, Anitra's fucking amazing at lip syncing. I'm gonna give it my best. Like Marsha wasn't quitting by any means, but she was like kind of resounded to what was against her.
She realized that she had a challenge in front of her.
But I think it made me happy that she performed as well as she did in the lip sync, and put the effort into it. I don't necessarily think it needed to be a double save, but I wouldn't have minded by any means because Marsha did put in a lot of effort and did a lot of great work. And the moment that obviously everyone was talking about was that backbend that Marsha does, and then Anitra immediately seeing it in the moment and being like, fuck this, and forward rolling over Marsha. Like,
which Marsha didn't even notice happened in the moment.
So she was saying at Roscoe's that like a producer afterwards came up and was like, "Oh my God, when she dived over you." And
she was like, "She did what?"
It was amazing. It was such a good. Anitra is such a great performer at the end of the day. Like, and it's and that's a song that like I've been wanting on Drag Race for a while, and it's a hard rap, but like they both did it pretty well, and like it's a really really. I'm shocked we haven't had more Doja Cat shit on for lip syncs. Like honestly,
Doja Cat shit.
not okay.
Sorry, it was right there, like you said earlier.
We're just firing on all cylinders today. But no, like there's so much in that catalog that needs to be performed, and I'm so glad that this got onto Drag Race, and like this lip sync, like you said, was top 5, like top notch lip sync. Like it was phenomenal stuff. But Anitra ends up winning. Marsha going home, obviously very sad. Marsha I think is a really great, but also I was listening to her What You Packing with Michelle. I mean, she's only been doing it at that point of filming for like a year. Like she's very young in the scene. So like I think she's got a ways to go. And I mean and she has all the talent for only a year in to where she's going to be even more amazing 3 or 4 years down the line.
What do you think? Because this just occurred to me. Because if Anitra gets to that final 4, it's going to end up being her against Sasha for the crown.
Gotta be.
What if that's not the story they wanted told, and they knew that Marsha was the only one that had a chance for sending her home? And that's why they didn't put her against Mistress. And they put Anitra down there because if Anitra got sent home, great. They knew Marsha wasn't going to make it to the end anyway. And if Marsha went home, well, we were needing to get rid of her anyway.
That's my thing. It's like if they're gonna, it seems like they're doing a final 4 instead of a final 5 like last year, which final 5 was a little too much.
Yeah.
But but I would hope that they're gonna do it like they did last year, where they give them their like performance that they get to sort of create, and then the best 2 then lip sync. I thought that worked really well last year.
I like doing everybody does their own performance, but I also like having the bracket lip syncs.
I think the problem that people have with the bracket lip syncs is that sometimes the best queen doesn't make it to the final 2. Like the fact that love Peppermint, but that Peppermint who did not do well, like the best of that 4. It should
have been Sasha versus
Shay or Trinity.
Or Trinity, but I love Peppermint, and she's done amazing work on Broadway since leaving the show.
Yeah. No disrespect, but
she should not have been in the final 2.
Or again, no disrespect to like Candy Muse, but like the fact that Simone and Candy was the final 2, I think when you could have had Gottmik in there when they were kind of the front runners. Like I feel like Willow and Camden last season made sense.
Yes.
Like in terms of of their trajectories. I feel like if we're talking about trajectories,
although I would have been happy to see Bosco in the final 2.
Yeah, sure. Or even Daya. I also thought Daya should have made
all 4 of those were amazing.
I thought Daya should have made a really good rookie run like towards the end to like get into the finals, but that's just me. But like I think if I'm projecting from like where everyone's path is right now, it would be Sasha and Mistress in the final 2. In terms of camera time, in terms of like focus of story, in terms of performance on the show so far. If I'm thinking the best lip sync, it's gonna be Sasha and Nitra.
Right. Well, I think that they also have set that story up already, right?
Sure.
So they lip synced against each other in the Lollapalooza, not getting to lip sync against each other until the finale, and possibly having Anitra win.
Kind of doing like a repeat of Brooklyn and Evie when they had such the amazing lip sync on the season, and then they faced off in the rematch.
Right.
Like that's like what you kind of. It's like classic storytelling.
It's good storytelling, but it also frustrates me when that happens because it feels so planned.
Yeah. Or even I would love to see Lux in the final 2 with Sasha. Like I think like having the generation element too would be like an interesting story to basically what we're saying is there's no realm where Sasha's not in the final 2. That's essentially what we're saying. But like I think there's a couple ways they can go with it and make it work. But
I also think that with the popularity and with the popularity of the lip syncs every week, and with how cultural those moments are, why have they not started a show that is just lip sync brackets? And it's it's like competitions where you have like every season you have like, I don't know, like 20 queens, and you do like have it be an internet show, and you do these, you know, best 2 out of 3 lip syncs between these two people to move up in the rankings, and then you get finally to the final, you know, 2 at the end of the season. To like that sort of thing would be amazing, and then it would also give us the ability to have real competition and not produced competition.
Sure.
And it would also give us,
because that's the one
the
thing
ability to get some of these amazing queens back in front of us, like a Laganja.
Okay, for those that, because this is an audio medium, he literally just puts the like toke signal by his hand.
I'm like,
by his mouth.
what is her name? I was like, the high one. You know what I mean.
The one that smokes the weed.
But yeah, it would give us the ability to see Laganja perform again, and we don't really get that opportunity with Drag Race because it was so toxic for her. But I think that environment would be healthy for her, actually.
Sure. And it is like you were kind of saying, like it's the one environment where the producers can't really put their hands, because and they've done it in the past where they kind of like you can do it to a certain extent where you show one person more, but like you can't really like what happened with All-Star 7 with Monet and Jinx. Like
right.
Like there was no hiding the fact that Monet wiped the fucking floor with her. Like
yeah, but Jinx deserved to win the season.
Based on your performance this whole season. Like that,
right.
I forgot the little audio. Oh, God, this show sometimes. But no, all the love to Marsha. Great job this season. Down to the final 6, cutting down to the wire. We're going to see how things shape up in the coming weeks, and it should be really exciting to see. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're getting into Survivor 44, Episode 3. You're not going to want to miss it.
Well, hello, friends. I'm your pal in the mainstream media.
And I'm the Riz.
And, you know, Riz, it takes years of strenuous, dedicated training before you're worthy to step inside a professional wrestling ring. But it takes even more time to develop complex, highly astute opinions about professional wrestling. Am I right?
That is correct. Yes. And you know where we can find that?
Yes.
On the Wrestling Man.
That's right.
I'm Eamon.
I'm Merlin.
And if you're anything like us, you live your life out loud.
And when it comes to issues of discrimination, inequity, and outright bigotry, we use every platform we have to speak out against systems of oppression that perpetrate violence against marginalized groups.
That's why we are so proud to wear designs from the Survivors Know merch store. Their team has created designs that feature unapologetic, empowering, and survivor-centered messaging that range from mild,
like accountability is love and toxicity is not on the menu,
to a little more spicy.
Like one of my favorites, fuck your laws, fuck your system, transformative justice now, which has a cute little happy flower on it.
Each design is available on a variety of items, from t-shirts and hoodies to bags, blankets, magnets, and even stickers. And as more items become available, the options will continue to grow.
100% of the proceeds go back into supporting the amazing work done at Survivors Know to support survivors, workers, and survivor advocates by organizing, challenging the status quo, and creating alternatives to the systems that fail us.
Support Survivors Know by shopping today at survivorsknow.threadless.com.
That's survivorsknow.threadless.com.
Sidekick Media Services. We are your sidekick in business for social media, video production, and more. Find out more at sidekickmediaservices.com.
Welcome back to A Gay and His Enby. Let's dive into the cool, refreshing waters of Fiji and talk about Survivor Season 44.
I love that intro. This has been a good season. You mentioned it in the intro. Like, I think they have gotten a better formula. It's not perfect, but it's like it's better in terms of like focusing more on the interpersonal dynamics and the characters, and I think the casting this season's been really good for the most part.
Yeah, very visually pleasing.
Yes, we'll get to that. But Tika returned to their camp from Tribal after Helen went home last episode. Basically, Carson flipped, obviously, and blindsided Helen. basically didn't think he could trust her in a sense, which I guess I understand. Like, I would think Yam Yam and Carolyn present a little more loyal at the end of the day, like, as opposed to Helen, who you could tell I would say was probably the smartest person on the tribe at the end of the day. But Sarah is kind of, I think
Sarah's in her feelings about it, and I think appropriately.
but she's not presenting it to the group. She's in her confessional is very much just like, yeah, I know I'm at the bottom. Like, this is like, I had no real connection to Helen necessarily, but like now I realize I'm kind of screwed at this point. So, but she's not presenting it to the group, which I think is a good idea, or to Carson. Like, Carson was basically like, I have to try to like sort of smooth things over with her, and she's humoring him, even though she knows in the back of her mind, like, I can't trust this guy at the end of the day, which I think is having sort of the maturity of that.
Yeah, I think as much as Sarah wasn't really projecting that she was, frustrated about it, everybody was almost acting as if she were, and they were still covering as if she had made a big deal about it.
Yeah, well, you always got to cover your tracks. I get that at the end of the day. And Carolyn is feeling herself in her confessional about surviving this first tribal. What did she say? Like, and I pulled it off, and then she's like in 2 different shoes.
Right.
Like,
apparently she was wearing 2 mismatching shoes at the time.
Yeah.
People have multiple pairs of shoes on Survivor. What, do you have a wardrobe?
Or she brought them thinking they were the same shoe and then realized I don't...
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see when we get one of her on the rocks, like in the sunlight confessionals.
The mysteries of Carolyn. You never know with her.
That could be an entire encyclopedia set, I'm sure.
Yeah. And this is like the Survivor moments where it's just like the editing team is like really like just playing for laughs. They just like transfer over to the Ratu tribe, and Kane is just singing "Oh Canada" for some reason.
Yeah, that was odd. But then I was like, this slaps a lot more than the Star Spangled Banner. I kind of wish we had a cooler.
It's a superior song. Like, at the end of the day,
it's also superior country, but we won't get into it.
Yeah. So, and then he's talking about how he's like was into D&D and was like a former dungeon master, and he's like playing with the sword immunity idol, the immunity idol. And like, but he's really bad at doing the whole like sort of like flipping the like.
It's funny. It's very nerdy, and it makes me like, Kane is undercover attractive.
Yes,
very. Like, he's nerdy attractive, and this, like, a lot of people, because I've been doing my research online this week, and apparently, like, the gay community has really was thirsting after Carson coming into the show.
Really?
Which, he's not my type. He's the kind to me that feels fake, and maybe he's not. Maybe that's just my interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a nerd that's muscly, that to me feels fake, because it feels like I mean, that happens.
This can't be real.
But it's very rare.
Yeah.
It's very rare to have a super nerdy, super muscly person. The obvious exception being Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill, call me. But, hey, look.
I'm right here.
Look. I'm just saying. British and
Mm-hmm.
nerdy and sexy. Sorry. Anyway. But Kane is kind of one of those guys that's he's got this quiet confidence, which I always find more attractive than this "I'm better than you" attitude, which Carson kind of has in spades. And he's nerdy and a lot of fun, and I don't know. I feel like guys like Kane go very unappreciated in society, and I'm just saying that I think that's the superior type of human. It doesn't help that I'm also that kind of person, but whatever. So maybe I'm a bit biased.
Well, aren't we all? And speaking of the contrast of that, and so Brandon gets his story of being this Renaissance man of I did football, but I'm also doing all this other. It's
I'm a musician and I do this.
I cook, or it's okay, we get it. You're perfect.
You have great teeth too. What? You couldn't have had one flaw.
it's just like, it's hard doing so much. It's like, oh, I'm sure. And then we go over to the Soka tribe, and Matt and Franny are continuing to bond, and it's continuing to sort of like not rub the tribe the wrong way, but like putting eyes on them, and like we have to sort of look out for them. Of like, obviously they're a duo. Like we have to keep that in
still
mind.
spent this entire episode going, but he has gay face.
I know
It's so confusing.
Speaking of who you said I think could be famous. So Danny is basically like getting with the tribe and basically being like, we got to look out for them. But then he found obviously the key to the cage and stuff like that, and he has the real idol and the fake idol.
He did it appropriately.
So yeah, he literally does what basically it's supposed to do, minus the eating of the fake idol note, which I don't think was necessary.
I thought it was a good idea because what are you going to do with it? Like, fire is like
burn it.
Great, but you may not burn it all the way, and there may be remnants there in the fire. Like, what do you like? Your stomach acid will take care of it.
Sure, but it's also like thick,
and nobody's digging through your shit.
It's not like 1-ply paper. It's like thick paper. Like
so.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would digest well.
Look, they don't get a lot to eat out there.
But he also he's doing too much. I think in terms of the extra parts of it. Like he's eating the node. He like tries to go to put the thing back in the cage, and does like this really unnecessary like forward roll.
He was feeling out his like spy fantasy with eating the paper and like diving through the bushes and all of that. Like, I get it.
Yes.
Like,
so he basically plants the fake idol as if it's the real idol in the cage, and then puts the key away and hides it, and hoping somebody will find it. We get to that briefly, but we get a brief moment of back on the Tika tribe of Carolyn basically complaining about Yam Yam snoring in the middle of the night, which I thought was funny. They have they have a really fun, interesting dynamic. I kind of want to see Carolyn and Yam Yam go a while in this competition. Like,
yeah.
I feel like they won't turn on each other for the most part. Like, I don't see a realm in which that really happens, but
yeah. I do think Yam Yam might be in danger just because of
he is very
performance
charming.
and he's charming too. He's so charming. But like performance in the challenges, he does lag behind people a little bit.
Yeah.
So if they end up in tribal again, it could be easy to point at him as a scapegoat. I hope that doesn't happen, but
Yeah. So back on Soka, they're basically all looking for the key. Danny's participating as well, even though he knows where the key is and all that stuff.
In fact, he tries to even push them to where
because they're so bad at it. They're really, he points out, like, they are bad at searching for, like, they'll look at a tree, but they won't actually dig in anything. And
it's like that meme of the old guy doing security,
yes,
where he just like waves his arms next to the person and then passes them on. It's like,
guys,
bro,
come on. But Matt eventually does find the key and gets the fake idol out of the cage, thinking it's the real one. And Danny, I thought, also played this really well. Of like, he basically like outs Matt to what's the other guy's name? We barely saw him until this
Josh.
Josh, that's his name. We hadn't seen him at all until this episode, by the way.
Yeah, not really.
But basically, like, he outs that Matt has the idol. Also, so not to get into everyone's attractiveness all episode, I've made the conclusion that Danny's hot, and I didn't think so the first episode. I think I was really confused when
I was on board the whole time. But
yeah, the beard is different now. I think that's what the beard is a little more rugged because they've been out there for however long they've been. He looks much more attractive now. I will say that.
That's fair.
So and then Matt then goes and tells Josh about the idol. And Franny's kind of frustrated that basically, anyone that is of like, the people who don't need to know that he has the idol knows that he has the idol. And then Danny then goes to tell Heidi about it, to basically be like, go to the one person he hasn't told to tell her. And so now Matt has eyes on him, and Danny's sort of like clear of everything. No one's suspecting he has the real idol. Nobody like thinking anything of it.
Like, extremely smart moves made by Danny this episode. Like, it's really impressive, and I hope he makes it far.
Yeah. We cut to the Ratu camp and Jamie's eating a worm. That's
Yeah,
happening.
That's
And is really enthusiastic about it.
honestly, it's surprising that we haven't gotten a lot of worm eating on Survivor before.
You would think.
You'd think. I mean, it's a great source of protein, and when there's not a lot of options out there, like
Yeah, and Lauren and Kane also join her in that. We get kind of sort of a Jamie set. I say this with fondness and sort of happiness in terms of the casting, but like there are a lot of fucking weirdos that they've casted this season.
Yeah.
Like, and throughout, every tribe has like 2 or 3. Like it's
it's it's very much a well. There's just room for everybody. On this
just say
cast.
that.
Just say that.
And Jamie's like barely likes plants. Like she basically has like a house plant for the tribe by camp.
I'm honestly surprised we haven't gotten that before too. Like I would think that that's a very natural thing to do.
Wasn't there somebody who was like really good at like it was like seasons ago, like really good at like making furniture and like basically made like a living room at the like and could do like make like chairs and stuff like that.
Was that on Island of the Idols?
Might have been. It was like it's a little, I would say it was probably a couple years ago, but not too far off. But either way, like it was giving me that vibe of like, let me actually home decor this place.
Yeah.
And Jamie's talking about how she's bonded with Matthew and they call themselves Plant Lady and Plant Daddy. And like, I was like, and I was so like happy. I was like, oh my God, they're forming, like it was two unlike people forming like this really like interesting bond with each other. And they're by the watering hole and Jamie finds an idol by the watering hole wrapped up like, oh my God, this is the idol that Brandon used that got flushed back into the environment. I'm so excited. Like, bonding moment between these two of like, we're going to go to the end. Like we both have this idol but we find out it's a fake idol because Matthew already found the real one.
Yep.
And planted it.
And he cut one of the bead strands from one of the tiki torches.
Or, no, you're right. It was the tiki torches.
And cut one of those from the torches and wrapped it up with the note he got for his idol and hid it. And it was like, these guys are just, they're making moves.
Yeah, Matthew, great move. But part of me was just like, oh no, don't do Jamie like that. She's so innocent. Like,
I mean, sure, but that's when it's the most fun is when you see, like, I can't wait for someone to play a fake idol. We've now got 3 fake idols out. No, 2.
Well, 2 that are like being held by people who think they're real.
Right.
So
It's very fun, and I just hope that it happens where we get to see Jeff throw it in the fire. Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yeah. So we go to the immunity challenge. You were talking about, so every time they go into the immunity challenge, Jeff does the whole like, the tribe's getting the first look at the new whatever, in this case was the Tika tribe. Helen voted out last tribal council.
Like, why is everybody shocked?
Everyone's just like mouth agape, and you were like, you don't know this person. Like
you see this person during immunity challenges, and that's it. So like a couple hours once every few days.
Yeah.
So why are you? And there's no interacting. It's you stand on your mat, you do the challenge, then you go back. Like you don't really know this person. So why is there a season after season when the other tribe comes up that just went to tribal? Why is everyone jaws on the floor with who went home?
Well, also they do like this wide shot as they're coming in, and I never realized like the 2 tribes that are in front, but like the recently went to tribal tribe is not that far back. They just have to turn around and see who's missing, really.
I mean, maybe they tell them not to so they get a good reaction. But like also when the reaction is clearly manufactured, who cares?
Yeah. So they go. We get to the challenge, and so again another sort of obstacle course. They have to start in the water, and they have to push this giant cube like thing that they have to then climb on to get these keys down.
Why did they send Matthew up there?
Well, yeah. We'll get to it. To sort of like lay everything out. There's that, and then you have to basically do the like dig sand under to go under this like thing,
log thing.
And then the final one is that you have these 4 blocks with different colors on each side, and you have to stack them up with no color matching on each side or whatever. Claire and Heidi sit out for Soka, and it gets pointed out that this is Claire's 3rd sit out.
Like, she has not participated in an immunity challenge.
Like, Jeff Probst, leave her alone, my God. I know that Jeff has to point stuff out, and that's his style. Like, but it's just like, I get her point later, which is just like, if it's the best people for the like challenge, then why the hell, And also, it's inherently good strategy. And we were talking about this of like preserving your energy until you get to the individual immunity challenges.
Well, and it's not even just preserving your energy; it's also hiding your talents.
Yeah,
like you don't want to go into the second half of this competition and everybody know what challenges you're going to be good at and what challenges you're going to fail at.
Yeah.
If you have any way of obscuring that, do it.
Yeah, I agree. You were talking, so they start pushing the giant cube, and Matthew has to get the keys for Ratu, which is just like,
he's the shortest person on this tribe.
yeah. And then they eventually have to get to the like crawl under thing, and apparently his shoulders.
Why would
up
Kane
again.
not do that? Why would you not send Kane
Or
or Brandon, who are both super tall, up onto? I don't get it. But,
Yeah.
That's just me.
But his shoulders starts acting up when they're trying to do the crawl through, and it's like maybe he's like injuring it from the dislocation and all that. So
It sounded like he was calling for a stop. Is that just me? Like, he was really loud and seemed to project that towards Jeff.
maybe I think they didn't seem to stop. So I'm wondering if he just like
I think maybe he was trying to get Jeff's attention and then like realized that it wasn't a big deal, so he left it alone. But it was a scary moment because I mean, obviously we both really like him, not just because he's incredibly cute, but because like he's a good competitor, he's smart. Like I really enjoy him on the show. So I would hate to see yet another person with amazing potential go home due to injury.
Yeah. So Ratu ends up finishing first though, so they get the win there still, and then Soka and Tika like just copying off of the puzzle, which I mean, smart move at the end of the day.
But also, this is why a lot of people start shoving over their towers and start messing up their puzzle after they win.
Yeah,
Because I'm not doing this for you. Earn it.
Yeah.
We earned it. You earn it.
That's been like in competition shows similar to that I've watched like over the years. It's like a big if this is like a sort of race sort of thing and you have your puzzle built, like knock over your puzzle when it's done. Like
Right. If the other teams weren't smart enough to be keeping an eye out while the other teams are seemingly getting close,
yeah,
then they miss their chance.
But Tika ends up finishing second, which is big for them. And then that means that Soka has to go to Tribal for the first time, which, they have not really... They're the ones that haven't really had to deal with anything, even like medevacs or anything. So first time in Tribal. And Matt doesn't have his vote because he went to the island and did that whole stuff.
Oh, right.
So he's basically out of the running to sort of get a vote. Danny says that basically wants to get Claire out because of the sit outs and stuff like that, and he's pointing that element out, which I think is kind of where he has to sort of target things. I think and he goes to basically tell Claire that it's actually Matt that they're going to gun for but with basically capitalize off the fact that he has no vote and the fact that he's close with Franny. Claire, I thought Claire was really smart the first couple episodes, but there's also like she at one point like is telling Franny that they should go for Matt, and I'm like, why are you telling Franny when you know they're close? And Franny even in that moment like tries to basically talk. Isn't like you would think would just immediately turn on her in that moment, but basically she wants them to stay and to take out Josh, which like okay, it's like what has Josh done this season? Like it felt like. I forgot his name until this actual episode because he was pretty much non-existent in that regard. But she basically wanted anyone other than Matt or Claire, so that's who she was going to try for. And then Matt tells Claire that Josh and Danny are sort of gunning for her. And again, like even Claire in her confessional is just like, I'm more worried about Josh than Danny at the end of the day, which like hindsight 2020, I guess. But like Danny's kind of running the show, like. again, what has Josh done? I don't know enough about, like, I feel like I'm negatively critiquing this person, but it's just like
But I mean, it's less about critiquing the person and more about critiquing how they've been produced on the show, because it's not like they have any control over that.
yeah. And then basically Heidi then becomes essentially like seemingly the swing vote from what
Right.
we can see of like Claire has to sort of get Heidi over to like vote for Josh, and Heidi's kind of pulled in two different directions and is very honest about like, you know, I don't know which way I'm going to go on this.
Right.
Then they go to tribal. I think Claire tried to put in a good effort. I mean, with how it ended up, it seemed as though Claire like kind of had. It was sort of written on the walls in many ways. She tried to make a good argument at tribal about like the definition of tribe strength and like what it actually means in terms of, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean strength and challenges and like
Right.
physical ability and stuff like that. And even I think Franny acknowledged like it doesn't, just because you sit out doesn't necessarily mean that we think you're not a competitor or couldn't do good in challenges. Like that's my thing. It wasn't like she was like this weakling that like
Right.
they had to sit out. It was like they chose to sit her out based off of an idea that the strongest people should have been in the challenge. Like, and she's kind of getting punished for that in a weird way, which I found kind of annoying. But we go to the vote. Claire,
Question: who was it that did the shot in the dark?
that was Claire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Claire plays her shot in the dark because she's essentially is just like, this is the only way I'm staying, I think, at the end of the day, which is frustrating because it's like, part of me makes it frustrated as to why we have shot in the dark at the end of the day, because it also puts us in places where you're going to get more of these scenarios where everyone's gunning for one person. And it's like, well, what do I do other than but you're giving up your votes. I just feel like that's like the worst way to sort of like, you know, I guess this was the scenario to do it because seemingly Claire had no hope of staying. Like, because to me, if there was any chance you could have flipped Heidi or flipped anybody else on the tribe, I don't see playing your shot in the dark and getting rid of your vote, because that's just taking down a number in terms of your vote at the end of the day. I think, you know, shot in the dark, they've tried it, but
yeah.
like
I think shot in the dark works if you have the larger tribes, because the way it is now, like if it had been 2 and 2,
right,
her vote would have sent the other person home.
yeah, exactly.
So like, but in a larger tribe, I think you can risk sacrificing your vote, and it's not going to change the person that goes home as much. It's an easier risk to take. I don't know. Maybe it shouldn't be that easy of a risk to take, and it should be that big of a consequence if it happens. But like, I don't see why it should risk us going to rocks.
Yeah. I also just don't like with like sort of this newer survival, like the overabundance of the ability for people to give up their votes, like at a tribal.
Yeah.
I just think like you should, unless it's a particular circumstance, like like once a season or like some like happenstance like failure, you should lose your vote at a tribal. For the most part, you should have your votes. That
Right.
to me is a core part of the show, to where it's like you shouldn't be playing willy-nilly with it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, again, like the fact that what's her name from I keep wanting to call her Julia. Her name is not Julia. Is it Julia from Ratu?
No, Jamie.
Jamie. It's a J name, and she spells it weird, so give me a pass on that. But like the fact that she was the first person to successfully use the shot in the dark,
Yeah.
like, and it's been around for
But not even
4
successfully
seasons.
because she wasn't targeted.
Yeah, it's like, what are we doing? I just feel like you don't need to overcomplicate things this much. And
Yeah.
I understand trying things, but like when they don't really work,
Yeah, I think
Pivot.
I think they introduced it in 39.
maybe. I thought it was the COVID era that they kind of like, they were like,
Oh, it might have been. So this is 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Or no.
Yeah, 4 seasons.
3, because 40 was winners.
Yeah, but this is 44.
Oh, right. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Math is
Merlin.
fun.
Duh.
God. But speaking of math, Claire goes home.
Because
Wah, wah.
when you have 5 votes and you subtract 1 vote and then you add 2 votes and 3 votes.
And it's a unanimous vote. She ends up going home. I also, again, this worrying, like, this is the 3rd woman voted out straight.
Yep.
The only guy that's been eliminated from this season has been Medevac.
Yep.
So,
And that was even, at the end of the day, ended up being unnecessary.
yeah, and it, like, every season this seems to be happening where it's like they just, and again, there'll probably be another tribal where they acknowledge it and have a discussion about it, but like, what's going to change?
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day. I mean, there's no way to fix it, but like, you know, it's society at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, sad to see Claire go home. I thought she had really good potential. But yeah, we're like I said, good season. I think the characters are really driving this season in terms of everything that's being produced.
I agree. And I think that having this sort of dynamic is really good. I don't know. I kind of have like a vision for a larger Survivor, and like I kind of want them to do larger scale stuff. I don't know, like maybe have a giant like 40-person cast, and every week we go back and forth between the 2 different sections, and then neither of them know about the other, and then we get to the merge and it's not an actual merge. It's only we've started the actual season of 20 people of Survivor.
100-day Survivor.
Right? It's just like,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It could be cool, and it would be a really fun twist. And
If they're gonna, like, I would, to that point, I think, like, don't go for like the really small, like adding these new advantages. Like, go for something big like that. Like, do something a little more like cutting edge in that regard.
Or even if they do the twist on everybody, and like the first like so many episodes we're only seeing one half of the show, and then they get to the merge and then they announce the other half. We go see the first half of that.
And watch it on
thing.
Paramount Plus.
Well, we see the first half of that one, and then we get back to the middle where everyone meets, and that's when it starts from there. I don't know. You could do something interesting with that. Doesn't necessarily have to be a giant 40-person cast, but like, I don't know. I think like you said, let's get past these shitty little frustrating twist, and let's throw something big in there like this.
Yeah.
Let's throw something in where the castaways think it's a small cast, and it turns out to be twice as big as they thought it was. Or it turns out that, you know, something nefarious is happening in the background that nobody knew about, and you find out at merge. Like, throw something huge in there that like completely breaks the way that we thought the game worked.
Because also, I mean, the preview for next episode, it's like there's an X in the cages now, and there's a boat coming to. It's like we don't need more of this. Like, just like it doesn't need to be that complicated at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
you know, give them things that, like, the cage thing was good because it gave them something to do, and like Danny executed it in the way that like it was supposed to be executed, and it could lead to a really fun result because now we have 2 people with fake idols. Like, that's you set those chess pieces, no pun intended, chess piece in the tribal council.
I get it.
But like, you don't need to keep giving them more tools and then hoping that they do something with it, because you're just going to get diminishing returns.
Right.
So that's my frustration. I think they can fix some things, but overall, I'm still enjoying myself much more than last season.
Or where they do eliminations where people like they do on Trader, where they just show up and someone's not there.
Okay.
You know, where they, you know, votes aren't read aloud.
What if we just do traders on an island?
You know, something. I don't know. Just like switch up the very fabric of the game, the thing that has been constant for 40 years. Get rid of something.
Yeah.
change it drastically, where people aren't walking onto the island knowing exactly what's going to happen. And sure, there might be little tweaks and things here and there, but it's basically the same game that it's been for the last 22 years. And like, I don't get why we haven't gone to that drastic level of fuckery.
Right.
Like, I want people to be absolutely shaken to their core when they walk onto the island and figure out what's happening. Like, that to me is that's an exciting, invigorating game.
I had heard something about that their contract with Fiji might be ending sometime
I thought they
soon.
owned that island, though.
No, I think it's on a contractual, like, year by year basis. So if that ends, maybe they would have to go someplace else, and maybe they could go a little more like bolder in the area. Like, go back to the earlier seasons where you would do like an Africa season or a China season or a, like, something of that regard. Like,
Yeah.
you know, give us something different.
Alrighty, everybody, it's time for tops and bottoms of this episode when it comes to Drag Race and Survivor for this week. What are you thinking, babe?
Tops for this. I mean, top for me is Anitra and Marsha for that lip sync. Like, that obviously, like, killer lip sync, so good, top notch stuff, ingrained in my gay mind for years to come. I tweeted something when it happened to the effect of, like, imagine looking at that and wanting to legislate against that instead of just having a good fucking time watching it. Like, it's yeah. We won't get too deep, but it's just like, God, like, if people could just, like, fucking, like, have fun with this shit, because it's so fucking fun. Being gay is fun.
Yeah.
Being gay is so fun. But
though, again, this is not a visual medium.
you know what I did. If you know what ham motion I made at home. But my bottom for this week is gonna go to MTV for ever giving us 60-minute episodes instead of 90-minute episodes. Because I did not know I mean, I got complacent, and then I was like, no, this is Drag Race. This is actual, like, story development. This is actual, like, connection with characters. This is actual, like,
felt so good.
Yeah, it was like, you know, you never know when you, like, go on a vacation, but you enjoy the vacation. Like, the vacation's nice, but then you step back in your home for the first time, and it's like yes, like this, like, it's like we're back to where we should be. Weird metaphor I just made, but that's okay. That's my feeling about that. Like, it was like, thank God we're back. What about you, babe?
So, top for the week is going to be a dual win. For me, it is Matthew and Danny from Survivor this week. I felt like both of them performed very well in their switcheroo with fake idols, and it's been a while since we've seen a fake idol get doled out successfully and done so well, because both of them made sure to keep the documentation with the fake idol. They got a real idol out of it. Like, Danny specifically even executed the twist, you know, of the cage thing in the way that it was meant to be done, which just is more of a knock against the horrible twists that we've had, because they haven't been executed the way that they were intended in so long, and this one actually went off the way it was supposed to in one of the three situations.
Yeah.
So I thought both of them really played the game masterfully this week. It was beautiful. It was good to see, and it was fun to watch because they're pretty. And for the bottom this week, I'm having to get nitpicky, and this has absolutely nothing to do with me feeling hateful towards this person, because I actually love their performance, but this week just didn't hit it for me, and that's Mistress. Like, I felt like it was not to her normal level. I will say that my friend that was in the audience there said that Mistress's makeup looks even better in person. And bitch looks airbrushed. Like, so she beats her face amazingly well. Never going to take away from her for that. But I just felt like both her performance in the Maxi Challenge and her look on the runway were just not up to her normal par. And that was disappointing for me. So I think we all expect more out of her than she gave us this week.
Right.
And that's just my opinion. That's my opinion.
Okay, Tamara.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of A Gay and His Enby.
Join us next time for more of our recaps and hot takes. And be sure to subscribe and leave a review wherever you are listening. And check us out on our social media at A Gay and His Enby on all the platforms.
A special shout out to Shane Ivers, who wrote Pulsar, the song we use for our theme.
I'm Eamon.
I'm Merlin,
And we're out.
This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.